Sit back, relax, and welcome to Reading Hours. Today's book is The Book Thief by Markus Zusak. Please let us know in the comments from where you are watching, or if there is a book you want us to summarize in future. Few books capture the haunting beauty of words like The Book Thief by Markus Zusak. First published in 2005, this novel has since become a modern classic, weaving history, literature, and human resilience into a narrative unlike any other. Set in Nazi Germany, the story unfolds through the eyes of an unusual narrator, Death itself, who follows the journey of a young girl named Liesel Meminger. Against the backdrop of war, Liesel discovers the power of words, both as weapons and as a source of comfort, in a time when even stories could be dangerous. Zusak's novel is unique, not just in its storytelling, but in its perspective. Death, usually feared and unspoken, takes on a contemplative and even compassionate role, offering a lens through which we view humanity's best and worst moments. The book's poetic yet raw prose, coupled with its deeply human characters, makes it an unforgettable read. It's a novel about survival, love, loss, and the enduring impact of stories. Beyond its literary brilliance, The Book Thief has sparked discussions about the portrayal of war through a child's eyes and the moral complexities of ordinary Germans during Hitler's reign. It is a story of resistance in small, quiet ways through stolen books, whispered words, and unspoken kindness. It is also a reminder of how history is shaped not just by grand events, but by individual acts of courage and compassion. As we step into Liesel's world, we will witness her growth, her friendships, and the tragedies that shape her. This summary will take you through the novel in 10 immersive parts, capturing its emotional depth and intricate storytelling. Let's begin. The first thing you should know is this: Death has a story to tell. It does not wear a hooded cloak or wield a scythe. It does not take pleasure in its work. Death is simply there, observing, collecting, and moving on. It does not choose who lives or who dies. It merely arrives when it is time. And sometimes, when something extraordinary happens, it lingers. This is how Death first notices the book thief. The story begins with 3 encounters Death has with a girl named Liesel Meminger before he truly takes notice of her. He does not interfere, nor does he make himself known. He only watches. He watches as she steals her first book before she can even read. He watches as war reshapes her world. He watches as words, the very thing that once comforted her, become weapons in a fight she never asked to join. It is January 1939. A train slices through the frozen German countryside, carrying a mother and her 2 children, Liesel and her younger brother, Werner. Their journey is long, cold, and filled with silence. Their destination is the town of Malching, a small, unremarkable place near Munich. They are being sent away, given up, sent to live with strangers who will take them in for a small stipend from the government. Liesel does not know what awaits her, only that her mother is tired, hollow-eyed, and quiet. She does not explain why they must go, why she must leave behind everything she has ever known. Liesel is only 9. She does not yet understand that her mother is in danger. But then, before she can even arrive at this new home, something happens. The train jerks forward. A cough rattles the air, then another. Then silence. Liesel turns, her eyes widening in horror. Werner is no longer breathing. Death arrives, unseen, and takes his small soul gently into its arms. There is nothing dramatic about it, only a soft release, a moment of stillness before the weight of loss crashes down. Liesel's mother is paralyzed, too grief-stricken to move. When the train finally stops, men in uniform remove the small, lifeless body and lay it in the snow beside the tracks. There is no grand funeral, no priest, no prayers, no long goodbyes, just a makeshift burial in frozen ground. 2 men with shovels, working quickly in the cold. Liesel stands beside them, numb and silent. She does not cry. She cannot. She only watches as the dirt swallows her brother, sealing him away forever. And then, something catches her eye. A book. It is small, black, and worn around the edges. One of the gravediggers has dropped it without noticing. Before she even understands why, Liesel steps forward and picks it up. The title reads The Gravedigger's Handbook. She does not know what it means, nor does she know how to read it. But she clutches it tightly, as if holding onto this book is the only way to hold onto her brother. Her mother does not notice. No one does. Soon after, they reach their destination, Himmel Street. Himmel means heaven in German, but Himmel Street is anything but. It is lined with small, tired-looking houses, their paint peeling, their windows smudged with dust. The sky overhead is gray, the air filled with the scent of coal and damp earth. Liesel and her mother stand in front of a narrow house. A door opens, and 2 strangers step out. Hans and Rosa Huberman. They are to be Liesel's new parents, though the word parent feels foreign, impossible. Hans is the first to speak. He is tall and thin, his face lined with years of hard work. His silver eyes are soft, kind, searching. He does not say much, but he smiles. Liesel does not smile back. Rosa, on the other hand, is the opposite. She is short, stout, and armed with a voice that can cut through steel. She wastes no time in barking orders, complaining about how skinny the girl is, how much trouble she'll be. She calls Liesel a Samensch, a crude term, part insult, part endearment. Liesel says nothing. She only stands there, book in hand, waiting for her mother to change her mind. But she does not. And just like that, Liesel is alone. Her mother disappears, swallowed by the war and the silence that follows. Liesel will never see her again. The first few days on Himmel Street are cold and unfamiliar. The bed is strange, the food tastes different, and Rosa's shouting is endless. But Hans is different. He is patient. He does not force Liesel to speak or eat or obey. He simply waits. At night, the nightmares come. Liesel dreams of her brother, of the train, of the grave. She wakes up screaming, tangled in blankets, lost in fear. Each time Hans is there, he does not ask questions. He simply sits beside her, whispering soft words, playing his accordion in the dark. One night, he notices the book she clutches. "Do you want to read it?" he asks. Liesel shakes her head. She does not know how. Hans does not scold her, does not tease. Instead, he nods. "Then we'll learn." And so, in the quiet hours of the night, in the small basement of a poor house on Himmel Street, Hans Huberman begins to teach Liesel how to read. The words are slow, difficult, uncooperative. They do not make sense at first, slipping through her fingers like water. But Hans is patient. With a piece of chalk, he writes letters on the walls, guiding her hand as she traces each shape. He speaks softly, never rushing her, never growing frustrated. And little by little, the words begin to take shape. Meanwhile, outside her home, Liesel meets Ruddy Steiner, the boy next door. Ruddy is nothing like Hans. He is wild, mischievous, with hair the color of lemons and a grin that never fades. He is obsessed with Jesse Owens, the Black American athlete who won gold at the 1936 Olympics. He idolizes him so much that he once painted himself black with coal dust and ran through the streets pretending to be him. Liesel does not know what to make of Ruddy. But one day, he challenges her to a race. "If I win, you have to give me a kiss," he declares. Liesel glares at him. "And if I win, then I have to give you a kiss." It is the first time she laughs in weeks. They race down the street, feet pounding against the dirt, breath coming in gasps. Liesel is fast, faster than Ruddy expected. And when she crosses the finish line first, she grins triumphantly. No kiss is given. Ruddy remains determined. And so, life begins again on Himmel Street. Liesel goes to school. She helps Rosa with the washing. She spends nights in the basement with Hans, learning to read. The stolen book becomes her most precious possession, its pages whispering secrets she is only beginning to understand. But beyond the quiet moments, beyond the walls of her new home, something dark is growing. The war is coming. The Führer's voice echoes in the streets. Soon, words will become more than just ink on a page. Soon, words will become dangerous. And the book thief will steal again. Liesel Meminger's new life on Himmel Street has begun. But it is a life woven with silence, grief, and the slow, steady rhythm of change. At night, she wakes in terror, drowning in the memory of her brother's death. The dream is always the same cold, rattling breath, snow-covered train tracks, a pair of lifeless eyes staring at nothing. And each time she wakes with a scream. But Hans Huberman is always there, sitting beside her, his quiet presence a comfort. In these late hours, he does not rush her back to sleep. Instead, he reaches for her stolen book, the Grave Digger's Handbook, and together, they stumble through the words. Hans is not a scholar. He is a house painter, a man of simple pleasures, a player of the accordion. But he is patient, and his voice is warm as he teaches her the alphabet, tracing letters onto the basement wall with a stick of chalk. Liesel clings to every lesson, every word. It is slow at first, frustrating even, but she does not give up. She cannot. The book in her hands feels like the last thing she has left of her brother, of her mother, of the life she lost before Himmel Street. During the day, she tries to fit into her new world. School is a battlefield of humiliation. When the teacher asks her to read aloud, the words tangle in her mouth like knots she cannot untie. The other children laugh. A deep shame burns in her chest. She is not stupid, she knows this, but without the words, she feels powerless. At home, Rosa Huberman rules with a sharp tongue and a wooden spoon. She calls Liesel Samich so often it almost sounds affectionate. Almost. Rosa is harsh, grumbling about everything from the state of the laundry she washes for wealthier families to the fact that Hans is too soft-hearted for his own good. But there is something else buried beneath Rosa's rough exterior. Something Liesel is only beginning to understand. Despite her complaints, Rosa cares. She cares when she forces Liesel to take the laundry to their customers, even though Liesel dreads it. She cares when she curses at Hans for staying up late to teach Liesel to read, even though she never truly stops him. And in her own gruff way, she is teaching Liesel something valuable, how to endure. But it is Ruddy Steiner who makes life on Himmel Street bearable. Ruddy, with his lemon-colored hair and unshakable confidence, is Liesel's best friend, whether she wants him to be or not. He is a troublemaker, a dreamer, and the kind of boy who is always running toward adventure, toward trouble, toward the impossible. The two of them become inseparable, bound by a shared love of mischief and competition. They race through the streets, daring each other to do the unthinkable. And of course, there is always Ruddy's persistent request, a kiss, Samich. Just one. Liesel never gives in. Not yet. But their friendship deepens in ways that words cannot describe. Together, they navigate the small world of Himmel Street, a world where food is scarce, laughter is found in stolen moments, and war looms like a storm on the horizon. And then, Hitler's voice comes to Malching. It comes in the form of a parade, of flags draped over buildings, of swastikas painted on walls. It comes in the form of a gathering where the entire town is expected to attend a book burning in honor of the Führer's birthday. Liesel does not fully understand, not yet. She does not know the weight of the words that are spoken, the danger that lurks beneath them. But she feels the tension in Hans' shoulders. She sees the way Rosa's usual grumbling turns to silence. She watches as the people of Malching gather in the town square, as the fire is built, as the books are thrown into the flames. And she knows, deep in her bones, that something is wrong. The fire roars to life, swallowing the pages, turning words into ash. The crowd cheers. Liesel does not. She watches, horrified, as the books burn. And for the first time, she realizes what words can do, how they can be used to build or destroy, how they can be feared. When the fire begins to die down and the crowd disperses, Liesel lingers. Her fingers itch with a need she does not fully understand. She steps forward, heart pounding, and reaches into the smoldering remains. And just like that, she steals her second book. It is hot, the edges blackened with soot, the title barely legible. The shoulders shrug. But it is hers now. She hides it beneath her coat, pressing it against her skin as if to absorb whatever words have survived the flames. But she is not as alone as she thinks. Someone has seen her, a woman in a dark coat with a mysterious smile. Ilse Hermann, the mayor's wife. Liesel does not know it yet, but this small act of defiance will change everything. It is the moment that will lead her to a library filled with stolen words. It is the moment that will teach her just how powerful stories can be. And it is the moment that will make her truly the book thief. The stolen book is still warm when Liesel presses it to her chest. Smoke clings to its pages, the faint scent of burning paper drifting through the night. Her fingers shake as she hides it beneath her coat, a thrill of fear and excitement coursing through her veins. She has done something dangerous, something forbidden. She has stolen a book from the fire. The remnants of the book burning smolder behind her as the crowd drifts away, their cheers and chants fading into the cold evening air. She tells herself no one saw her, that no one will notice one book missing from the pile of ashes. But she is wrong. Someone did see her. A woman stands in the shadows, her long coat buttoned up against the cold, her hands tucked into her sleeves. She is quiet, observant, and though Liesel does not know her name, she recognizes her face. Ilse Hermann, the mayor's wife. Liesel's heart pounds as their eyes meet, but Ilse does not speak. She does not call for the authorities. She does not accuse Liesel of theft. Instead, she simply watches. And then, with a quiet nod, she turns and walks away. Liesel does not understand what the gesture means, but she will. That night, she hides the shoulder shrug under her mattress, beside the grave digger's handbook, her two stolen treasures pressed close against the wooden slats of her bed. She does not yet know how to read the new book, but it does not matter. It is hers, and that is enough. For weeks, she says nothing about it. Not to Ruddy, not to Hans, not even to herself. But Hans, as always, notices. One evening, as they sit together in the basement, chalk in hand, he asks about the book. "Where did you get this one?" he asks, tapping his fingers against the blackened edges. Liesel hesitates. Hans does not press her. He never does. but after a long silence, she whispers, "I stole it." A slow smile spreads across Hans' face, not one of approval, but of understanding. "Well," he says, leaning back against the basement wall, "I suppose we'll have to read it then." And so, night after night, in the dim light of a flickering lamp, Hans Huberman helps Liesel piece the words together. She stumbles, she struggles, but she learns. And with each sentence, each chapter, each page she conquers, she grows stronger. Reading is no longer just something she wants to do, it is something she must do. Life on Himmel Street moves forward. Winter settles in, biting at the edges of the small town. Rosa Huberman complains about the cold, about the price of food, about the customers who refuse to pay for their laundry on time. Her sharp words are relentless, but in her own way, they are also reassuring. Rosa's anger is predictable. It is steady. It is a constant in a world that is slowly, quietly unraveling. But not everything is predictable. One afternoon, Liesel delivers laundry to the mayor's house. She has done this many times before, standing on the front steps, knocking once, waiting for the cold, stiff-faced mayor to drop a few coins into her hand before shutting the door. But this time is different. This time, the door does not close immediately. This time, Ilse Hermann stands in the entryway, looking at Liesel with something unreadable in her expression. She steps aside and gestures for the girl to follow. Curious, hesitant, Liesel steps inside. The house is grand, much larger than anything on Himmel Street. The air is cold, as if the fireplaces have not been lit in weeks, and the silence presses in from all sides. Ilse leads Liesel down a long hallway, her footsteps soft against the polished floor. At the end of the hall, she opens a door. Liesel steps inside and gasps. A library. A room filled from floor to ceiling with books. Shelves upon shelves of them, more than Liesel has ever seen in her life. More than she ever thought could exist. She stares, wide-eyed, unable to move, unable to speak. Ilse watches her carefully, then gestures toward the nearest shelf. "Go on," she says softly. Liesel hesitates for only a moment before stepping forward. Her fingers brush against the spines, trembling as she pulls a book from its place. She does not know the title, does not know if she will even understand the words inside, but she opens it anyway, the weight of it solid in her hands. Ilse does not stop her. She does not scold her. Instead, she simply watches, a ghost of a smile playing at her lips. For the first time, Liesel sees something in Ilse's eyes that she did not notice before. A deep sadness. A grief that lingers in the air around her, pressing into the walls of the grand, empty house. She does not understand it yet, but she will. Outside, the world grows darker. The war is still a distant shadow, lurking at the edges of everyday life. But the signs are everywhere. Posters plastered to walls, soldiers marching through the streets, a quiet, growing fear that no one dares to name. And then, one evening, Hans Huberman makes a mistake. A dangerous mistake. The Hubermans have never been supporters of Hitler. Hans did not cheer when the Führer rose to power. He did not hang a Nazi flag outside his house like the others. He did not chant in the streets. And when a parade of Jewish prisoners is marched through mulching, gaunt, broken men being herded like cattle, Hans does the unthinkable. He steps forward. He offers one of them a piece of bread, a small act of kindness, a simple gesture. But it is enough. A soldier sees him. A whip cracks through the air. The man takes the bread, but he does not have time to eat it. He is struck down. Hans is struck too, his face slamming against the pavement, blood filling his mouth. Liesel watches, frozen in horror. Hans does not fight back. He does not argue. He only looks up at the soldier, his silver eyes filled with quiet defiance. And in that moment, he knows. He has made himself visible. He has painted a target on his back. And worse, he has painted a target on his family. That night, Hans stares at his hands, the same hands that once held Liesel's as she learned to write, the same hands that played the accordion in the dim light of the basement. "That was stupid," Rosa tells him, her voice shaking. Hans does not argue, but he does not regret it either. Because sometimes kindness is worth the risk. And soon, there will be even greater risks to take. Because soon, they will be hiding a Jew in their basement. And soon, Liesel will learn that words are not just stolen from flames. Sometimes, words can save a life. Himmel Street is silent when the man arrives. It is a silence heavy with secrets, the kind that thickens the air and makes every creaking floorboard sound like a gunshot. Liesel is awake when the knock comes, though she does not understand why. The dream that haunts her, the snow, the train, the cold fingers of her dead brother, has not visited her tonight. But something else has taken its place. A feeling, a shift in the house, as if the walls themselves are holding their breath. Hans Huberman rises from his chair in the kitchen, setting down his accordion with slow, deliberate hands. Rosa is already moving toward the door, her housecoat pulled tightly around her. Her eyes flick to Hans, sharp and questioning, before she opens it. A man stands in the doorway. He is thin, more shadow than flesh, his skin pale from too many days spent in hiding. His hair is dark, his face hollow, and his eyes are full of something Liesel does not yet have the words to name. He does not speak at first. He only stands there, gripping the straps of a small bag slung over his shoulder. Then, with a quiet voice, he says, "Hans Huberman." Hans nods. The man exhales, his whole body seeming to collapse under the weight of exhaustion. He steps inside, and just like that, the course of Liesel's life changes again. His name is Max Vandenberg. He is a Jew, a fugitive, a man running from death in a world where death wears a swastika and speaks in Hitler's voice. And now, he is their secret. Rosa does not argue, not tonight. She only looks at the man, then at Hans, and finally at Liesel, who watches everything with wide, uncertain eyes. Then, without a word, she pulls a blanket from the cupboard and hands it to Max. He nods his thanks, though he does not speak again. That night, Max sleeps in the basement. Liesel cannot sleep. She lies awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering what it means to have a Jew hidden beneath her feet. She has heard the stories. She has seen the posters, the dirty caricatures painted on walls, the whispers in the schoolyard. She knows what the world says about people like Max, but she has also seen the fear in his eyes, and she knows the world is wrong. The days pass. Max is careful. He does not go near the windows. He does not make a sound when Rosa's customers come to the door. Most of the time, he stays in the basement, curled beneath a blanket, shivering from the cold that seeps through the cement walls. The Hubermans do what they can. Hans brings him extra food when he can spare it. Rosa grumbles about wasted blankets, even as she gives him another. And Liesel watches. She watches the way Max flinches at sudden noises, the way his fingers tremble when he holds a spoon, the way his eyes dart to the door whenever someone passes outside. But most of all, she watches him at night. Because sometimes, when the nightmares come, Liesel wakes to the sound of someone else crying. It is not her own voice that echoes through the house, but Max's. One night, she cannot take it any longer. She climbs down the basement steps, her breath forming small clouds in the icy air. Max is curled against the wall, his blanket pulled tightly around his shoulders. His face is damp with sweat, his fingers clutching the fabric like a lifeline. Liesel hesitates, then steps forward. She touches his arm. He startles awake, eyes wild and unfocused. For a moment, neither of them speaks. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, Max asks, "Do you have bad dreams?" Liesel nods. Max swallows hard. "What do you see?" She hesitates. "My brother." Max closes his eyes. When he speaks again, his voice is even quieter. "I see my mother." The words settle between them, heavy and unspoken. And in that moment, Liesel understands something she did not before. They are the same. Both of them haunted, both of them running, both of them carrying ghosts. A bond is formed in the darkness of that basement, one stitched together not with words, but with silence, with understanding, and with stories. Because as the days stretch on, Max begins to tell Liesel stories. He tells her about his childhood, about the days before the world decided he was an enemy. He tells her about boxing in the back alleys of his old neighborhood, about how he would pretend every opponent was Hitler, imagining himself knocking the Führer to the ground, standing victorious over him. And Liesel listens. She listens as he tells her about the day his mother sent him away, the last time he saw her face, the way she disappeared into the folds of history like so many others. And when he grows too tired to speak, Liesel tells him stories in return. She tells him about Himmel Street, about Ruddy Steiner and his never-ending demands for a kiss, about soccer games played in the dust, about stolen apples and stolen books and the mayor's grand, empty library. She reads to him from the shoulder shrug, and Max listens. He listens and he writes. One day, he takes out the pages of an old book, one that has been painted over, its original words hidden beneath layers of white paint. And on those pages, he begins to write a story. It is called The Standover Man. He gives it to Liesel as a gift. And when she opens it, she finds herself staring at a collection of hand-drawn illustrations. A story told in words and pictures. A story about a small, frightened boy and the people who have stood over him throughout his life. His mother, the soldiers, the men who hunted him. And finally, a girl with yellow hair and dark eyes standing over him as he sleeps. A girl named Liesel. She does not cry when she reads it, but something inside her shifts. Because in that moment, she realizes something she has never understood before. Max is not just hiding in their basement. He is waiting for the knock that will come one day. The knock that will take him away. And no matter how many stories they tell each other, no matter how many words they share, that truth remains. Because outside, the war marches on, and no amount of stolen books can stop it. Himmel Street is colder than ever. The winter air slips through the cracks in the walls, seeping into every corner of the Huberman household. It creeps into the basement, where Max Vandenberg lies shivering beneath his thin blanket. It chills Liesel as she hurries to and from school, her breath visible in the frozen air. It stiffens Rosa's fingers as she scrubs laundry in a bucket of near-freezing water. Winter is cruel, and in times of war, it is even crueler. Food is scarce, work is uncertain, and now the war has come knocking on their doorstep. The German army needs soldiers, and Hans Huberman is exactly the kind of man they are looking for. The letter arrives. It is small, sealed with an official stamp, and slipped through the door in the early morning hours. Rosa picks it up from the floor and stares at it for a long time before handing it to Hans. Liesel watches as her papa opens the envelope. His fingers tremble just slightly as he unfolds the paper and scans the words. A slow exhale. a tired nod. Then, without a word, he sets the letter down on the table. "What does it say?" Liesel asks. Hans meets her eyes, and she knows the answer before he speaks. "They want me to go," he says simply. A silence settles over the house, thick and unmoving. Hans Huberman has been drafted. The cost of kindness is high. Liesel knows this. She has known it ever since Hans handed a piece of bread to a starving Jew in the streets of Malching. She remembers the way the soldier's whip came down across her papa's back, the way the man who took the bread was beaten even worse. She remembers the way Hans stood afterward, blood on his lips, a quiet defiance in his silver eyes. She remembers the fear. That was the day everything changed. That was the day Hans painted a target on his own back. And now the consequences have arrived. Rosa does not cry. Instead, she goes to the bedroom, pulls Hans' accordion from its usual spot, and sets it down on the table in front of him. "If you're going to go," she says gruffly, "you should play something first." Hans looks at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he nods, lifts the accordion onto his lap, and begins to play. The music fills the small kitchen, curling around the walls like warmth in the cold. Liesel closes her eyes and listens. She memorizes the sound, every note, every pause, every breath her papa takes between chords. Because soon, the music will be gone. And she is terrified that, when it goes, it will take Hans Huberman with it. The goodbye is quiet. There are no grand speeches, no tears shed in front of the departing soldiers. Hans stands at the door, his uniform stiff and unfamiliar on his body. Rosa grips his coat for just a second longer than necessary before stepping back. Liesel throws her arms around him, pressing her face against his chest. Hans rests his chin on top of her head. "Be good," he tells her. "Look after Mama," and he pauses. "And don't stop reading," Liesel nods against his chest. "I won't." Hans smiles, but it doesn't quite reach his eyes. Then, with one last glance at the house, he steps outside and walks toward the waiting truck. Liesel stands in the doorway, watching him go. She does not know if she will ever see him again. Time moves differently after Hans leaves. The house is quieter, colder. Rosa still complains, still slaps Liesel lightly on the back of the head when she mouths off, still mutters about ungrateful customers and the price of eggs. But something in her is softer now, something fragile hidden beneath all the bluster. Liesel finds her mother sitting on the edge of the bed at night, clutching Hans' accordion to her chest. She does not play it, she only holds it, as if the weight of it will bring him back. And Liesel, for the first time, sees Rosa Huberman not just as her harsh, sharp-tongued foster mother, but as a woman who has just sent her husband to war. A woman who is afraid. And so, Liesel begins reading to her. At night, when the silence feels unbearable, Liesel sits at the kitchen table and opens a book. She reads aloud, her voice steady, filling the space with words. Rosa never asks her to stop. Max is still in the basement. The cold has worn him thin, his skin pale, his breath visible in the freezing air. He sleeps more now, curled up beneath layers of old sheets and blankets. And then, one day, he falls asleep and does not wake up. At first, Liesel thinks it is just exhaustion. But when he does not move, when his breathing is so shallow she can barely see his chest rise and fall, she feels a sharp stab of panic. "Max," she shakes his shoulder. "Wake up." Nothing. She runs up the stairs, her voice frantic. "Mama." Rosa is in the kitchen. She turns just in time for Liesel to grab her arm, tugging her toward the basement. Something's wrong. Rosa follows her down the stairs. They kneel beside Max together. His skin is too pale. His lips are chapped. His eyelids do not flutter, even when Rosa shakes him. For a long moment, neither of them speaks. Then, Rosa lets out a breath and mutters, "Jesus, Mary, and Joseph." She grabs a bucket, fills it with warm water, and hands Liesel a rag. "Start wiping his face." Liesel does as she's told. She dips the rag into the water and presses it against Max's forehead, his cheeks, his throat. His skin is cold. Too cold. They sit with him for hours, waiting for him to open his eyes, waiting for him to come back, waiting for something, anything, to tell them he is still alive. And then a flicker, a twitch of his fingers, a slow, rasping inhale. Max's eyes flutter open. Liesel exhales a breath she did not know she was holding. He is weak. He is barely conscious, but he is alive. Rosa mutters under her breath, wiping her own face with the back of her sleeve. "Stupid Jew," she grumbles, but there is no anger in it, only relief. Max does not leave the basement after that. He is too weak to stand, too frail to move beyond the small cot where he sleeps. So Liesel brings the world to him. She tells him about the outside, about Ruddy, about school, about the things she sees on the way to and from town. And every night, she reads to him. She reads until her voice grows hoarse, until her eyes blur with exhaustion. She reads because she knows what words can do. They can bring comfort. They can bring warmth. And sometimes, they can bring a dying man back to life. War does not care about Himmel Street. It does not care about the small, quiet houses or the people who live inside them. It does not care about Liesel Meminger or Ruddy Steiner or the way they run through the streets with stolen apples in their hands. It does not care about the Hubermans, about Rosa's quiet grief, or the empty space Hans has left behind. And it certainly does not care about the man hiding in the basement, the man who spends his days drifting between sleep and silence, waiting for a war that will not let him go. The war only marches forward, dragging its victims behind it. Max is fading. The cold has wrapped itself around him, sinking into his bones, stealing what little strength he has left. He no longer paces the basement floor. He no longer tells stories. Most days, he does not even open his eyes. Liesel sits beside him, reading. She reads until her voice cracks, until her words begin to blur together, until the only sound in the basement is the steady, too quiet rhythm of Max's breathing. When the words run out, she speaks her own. "You have to wake up," she tells him. "You can't just leave." She grips his hand, small fingers curling tightly around his. "You still owe me another story." Max does not answer, he only breathes. Outside, the war grows louder. The air raid sirens begin to wail. At first, they come in the distance, far away from Malching, from Himmel Street. But then, one night, the sirens come for them. Liesel is in bed when she hears it. The low, droning wail snakes through the streets, crawling under doorways, slithering through cracks in the windows. Rosa is already out of bed, grabbing Liesel by the arm, shoving shoes onto her feet. "Come," she says. "Hurry, the basement is not deep enough. It is not safe enough." So they must go to the Fiedler's house, where the cellar is stronger, deeper. Liesel runs with Rosa through the frozen streets, their feet pounding against the cobblestones. Around them, doors open, neighbors rush into the night, hands gripping children, bags filled with whatever small treasures they can carry. The world is awake and it is afraid. The shelter is dark and crowded. The air is thick with whispers, with the rustling of fabric, with the sound of breath held too long. Someone is crying. Someone else is praying. Liesel stands in the corner, her hands clenched into fists, her heart pounding against her ribs. Because Max is still in the basement. Max is still in the basement. He has no shelter, no escape, No protection from the sky above, from the bombs that may or may not fall. He is alone. And if the bombs come, Liesel closes her eyes. The minutes stretch. She does not know how long they stand there, waiting. And then the all-clear sounds. The sirens wail again, their cries different this time, softer, less urgent. It is over. For now, Liesel and Rosa hurry back home. The house is still standing. And in the basement, Max Vandenberg is still alive. He is sitting up when they find him, his hands pressed flat against the wall, his head tilted toward the ceiling. "I counted the seconds," he says. His voice is hoarse, dry, as if he has not used it in days. Liesel stares at him. "What?" "I counted the seconds between the bombs." He looks at her then, his eyes dark, shadowed, something unreadable lurking beneath the surface. "I heard them coming." She does not know what to say. Max smiles, small, tired. "They didn't come for us tonight, but they will." Liesel knows it. Max knows it. Everyone on Himmel Street knows it. The war is growing closer. And soon there will be no hiding from it. Ruddy Steiner is growing restless. He is taller now, his face leaner, sharper, the boyish mischief in his features beginning to harden into something else. Something angry, something desperate. The war has stolen his father, sent him away to serve the Führer. And now it is knocking on his own door. The Nazi party has taken notice of him. They have seen the way he runs, the way his feet fly across the dirt roads, the way he moves faster than any other boy in town. And they want him. Ruddy is summoned to a medical examination, forced to strip in front of a cold-eyed doctor, forced to stretch his arms, to stand tall, to allow himself to be measured and examined like a specimen. They are testing him, judging him, weighing his worth as a soldier, as a German, as something more than just a boy from Himmel Street. And they are pleased. They want to take him away. But Ruddy refuses. His parents beg him, plead with him to accept, to go willingly, because if he does not, if he resists, the punishment will be far worse. But Ruddy only stands there, fists clenched, jaw set. He does not care about their tests. He does not care about the war. He only cares about the people it has taken from him. And so he stays. But the war does not forget, and neither does death. Liesel is still stealing, not food anymore, not apples. She steals words. She slips into the mayor's house, into the grand, empty library, running her fingers along the spines of books, feeling the weight of them beneath her hands. She steals them one by one, carries them home beneath her coat, hides them beneath her mattress. They are her treasures, her lifelines. She reads them to Max when he is awake. She reads them to herself when he is not. She reads because she must. Because if she stops, if she allows herself to listen too closely to the world outside, she knows the fear will take hold. She knows it will consume her, and she cannot afford to be afraid. Not now, not when the war is watching, not when the bombs are coming, because they are. She can feel them waiting just beyond the horizon, just beyond the pages of her stolen books. And soon, there will be no more hiding. The war is hungry. It devours fathers, dragging them to the front lines. It steals mothers, forcing them into labor for the Reich. It takes food from the tables, warmth from the homes, light from the eyes of children. And now it has come for Max Vandenberg. The decision. It happens after the second air raid. Another night in the shelter. Another night of silence and held breath. Another night of Liesel standing in the darkness, her heart pounding because Max is still in the basement. Alone, unprotected. And this time it is worse. This time the bombs are closer. The walls of the Fiedler's shelter tremble. The ground shakes beneath them. There is a sound, low, distant, but unmistakable, the sound of destruction. When the all clear comes, the people of Himmel Street step outside, expecting to see their homes still standing. But somewhere, not far from Malching, a city burns. Somewhere, a house like theirs is gone. Somewhere, families just like theirs are buried beneath rubble. Liesel sees it in Rosa's face, in Ruddy's face, in the way Frau Holzapfel grips her hands together so tightly her knuckles turn white. No one speaks, because the war is here now, because the bombs are falling and one day it will be their turn. That night, Max makes his decision. He calls for Rosa, calls for Liesel. "I have to leave," he says. Liesel freezes. "No," she shakes her head. "No, you don't." Max does not argue. He only looks at her, something soft and sad in his tired eyes. "If they find me here," he says quietly, "they will take you too." Liesel wants to tell him she does not care, that she would rather risk everything than let him go. But she sees the truth in Rosa's face. She knows Max is right. If the Gestapo ever comes to search their home, there will be no second chances. Max cannot stay. The goodbye, they do not leave in the morning. It is too risky, too many eyes. So they wait until the middle of the night, when the world is sleeping, when the streets are empty, when even death himself seems to pause in his work. Max stands in the kitchen, an old blanket draped over his shoulders, a small bundle of food in his arms. "This should last a few days," Rosa mutters, stuffing another piece of bread into the bundle. Her voice is gruff, her face set, but Liesel sees the way her hands tremble. Max nods. He does not say goodbye. Not yet. He only turns to Liesel. "I have something for you." He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small book, wrapped in brown paper. Liesel takes it with careful hands, peeling the paper back to reveal the title. The word Shaker. She glances up at him. "You made this," Max nods. "It's for you." Liesel flips through the pages. The writing is small, neat. The drawings simple, but full of meaning. A story about words, about power, about a girl who plants trees that reach the sky. She closes the book and holds it to her chest. Max rests a hand on her shoulder. "You are the best friend I've ever had." And then, before she can find the right words to say back, he steps out the door and disappears into the night. Liesel does not go back to bed. She sits by the window, the word Shaker in her lap, staring into the darkness. She does not cry, she only reads, "The March of the Jews." Max is gone, but the war does not forget him. A few weeks later, it brings him back. Liesel is walking with Ruddy when she sees them, the prisoners. They come in a long line, staggering through the streets of Malching, their bodies thin, their heads shaved, their clothes hanging off them like rags. The people of Malching watch from their doorsteps, their windows. Some whisper, some shake their heads, some pretend not to see, and then Liesel sees him. At first, she thinks it is a mistake, a trick of the light. But then he turns his head just slightly, and she sees his face. Max, he is thinner now. His skin pale, stretched too tightly over his bones, his lips cracked, his eyes hollow. But it is him. Liesel does not think. She runs. She pushes past Ruddy, past the people on the sidewalks, past the soldiers who watch with dull, empty eyes. Max. The name rips from her throat before she can stop it. Max stumbles but does not stop walking. His eyes flicker toward her, wide with something between terror and exhaustion. A soldier shouts. Liesel does not hear him. She only sees Max. She reaches for him, her fingers brushing against his arm, and for a single impossible second, the world stands still. Then the whip comes down. It cracks across her back, searing pain through her skin, knocking her to the ground. Liesel gasps, but she does not stop. She scrambles forward, reaching for him again. Another crack, another wave of pain. Liesel. Someone grabs her, Ruddy, pulling her back, holding her as she struggles. Max shakes his head. His lips barely move, but she knows what he is saying. Don't, and then he is gone. Dragged forward by the tide of prisoners, swallowed by the march, disappearing down the street. Liesel falls silent. She does not move, does not blink. The world has gone quiet. And then, for the first time in years, she screams. The world keeps moving, but Liesel Meminger does not. She is still kneeling in the dirt where she fell. The last echoes of her scream fade into silence. The prisoners are gone. The soldiers are gone. Max is gone. Ruddy kneels beside her, his hand on her arm. He does not speak. He does not ask her to get up. He only stays with her, his face set, his blue eyes dark with something unreadable. It is a long time before Liesel stands again. When she does, she feels different. As if something inside her has been hollowed out, carved away, leaving behind only a space where Max used to be. The guilt and the anger. Liesel does not return to the mayor's house. She does not steal books. She does not read. She barely speaks. Rosa tries. She leaves food by Liesel's door. She mutters under her breath about foolish girls and stupid decisions, but there is no anger in her voice. Only something soft, something like worry. But Liesel does not eat. She only lies awake at night, staring at the ceiling, tracing the words of the word shaker in her mind. She thinks of Max. She wonders if he is still walking, if he is still breathing, if he still dreams of fighting the Fuhrer in basements, throwing punch after punch until the war is over, if he still dreams at all. One night, she wakes up gasping, the ghost of a whip burning across her back, the taste of his name on her tongue. She throws off the blankets. She grabs the word shaker and stumbles out of the house, running blindly through the streets, past the silent houses, past the empty shop fronts, past the church with its towering steeple. And then she stops. Her feet have carried her to the mayor's house. The library. Liesel presses her hand against the cold wood of the door. Her breath comes in sharp, ragged gasps. And then she turns away. She does not want stolen words tonight. She wants real ones. The letter. Liesel does something she has never done before. She writes a letter. It is clumsy, the words uneven, the letters sometimes too large, sometimes too small, but she does not stop. She tells the mayor's wife everything. About the first time she saw the library, about the first book she stole, about Max and the basement, and the nights spent reading in the dark, about the words that kept him alive, and about how they were not enough. When she is done, she folds the letter carefully, presses it against the cold steps of the mayor's house, and walks away. She does not expect a response, but she gets one. Frau Hermann's gift. A few days later, Liesel finds a book sitting on her windowsill. It is not stolen, it is not borrowed. It is a gift. A small piece of paper flutters from its pages. Liesel picks it up, unfolds it. There are only a few words. For Liesel, who loves words. From Ilse Hermann, who knows their power. Liesel stares at the note for a long time. Then she opens the book. She begins to read. Ruddy and the Taste of Revenge. The war does not leave much room for dreams. But Ruddy still has one, and it has not changed. He still wants to steal something from the mayor's house. Not books, not words, something real. Something that will fill the hollow place in his stomach. Something that will make up for everything the war has taken. So he takes Liesel's hand. He leads her through the streets, past the baker's shop, past the shattered window of a Jewish business that has long been abandoned. They stop in front of Franz Deutscher's house. Ruddy's old Hitler youth leader, the boy who made him run in the mud, who humiliated him, knocked him to the ground, made him hate the uniform he was forced to wear. Ruddy stares at the door for a long time. Then he turns. He looks at Liesel. "I don't want to do it anymore," he says. Liesel watches him. "Why not?" Ruddy shrugs. It won't change anything. Liesel does not argue. She understands. They walk home together, empty-handed. Neither of them say a word. The next march. It happens again. Another line of prisoners. Another march through mulching. Another reminder of the war, of its weight, of its cruelty. Liesel is in the middle of Himmel Street when she hears the boots. She freezes. Not again. She does not know if Max is among them. She does not want to look, but she does. One by one, the prisoners pass her. Faces too thin, bodies too weak, eyes too empty. And then she sees him. Not Max, not this time, but another man. Another Jew. Another soul being dragged through the streets, too exhausted to lift his head. And suddenly, it is too much, the weight of it. The helplessness. Liesel does not think. She runs. She reaches for him. She shoves a piece of bread into his hands. And for a single, fragile second, the man looks at her. And then the soldier's hand comes down. Hard. Liesel stumbles. The world blurs. She tastes blood. Beside her, Ruddy is screaming. The man is dragged forward. The bread falls to the dirt. Liesel watches as it is crushed beneath a soldier's boot. And then the prisoners are gone. The street is silent, but something is different now. Something has shifted. The war has taken so much, and now it has taken this too. The belief that kindness can still win, that words can still save, that she can still fight. She looks at Ruddy. His lip is bleeding. His fists are clenched. He does not say what they are both thinking, that there are worse things than hunger, that the war does not care about their kindness, that they are powerless. But he does not have to, because Liesel already knows, because Liesel has seen, and because, deep down, she is afraid that soon there will be nothing left to fight for at all. The world is unraveling. The war is no longer a distant thing, lurking at the edges of life. It is here. It is everywhere. It is in the air raids and the marches, in the rationed food and the empty houses. It is in the silence that follows bad news. And Liesel feels it. She sees it in Rosa, who holds Hans' accordion at night but does not play. She sees it in Ruddy, whose eyes are darker, whose dreams are quieter, who does not talk about Jesse Owens anymore. She sees it in herself, because she no longer believes the world will be kind again. Not after Max, not after the bread, not after everything. The letter that never comes. Hans Huberman is gone, not dead, at least not yet, but gone. After giving bread to the Jewish prisoner, he knew it was only a matter of time. The Nazis would not let such an act go unanswered. And so, the knock came at the door, and with it, his punishment, conscription. They sent him to the war, to fight, to kill, to die. Liesel and Rosa wait. They wait for letters, for some sign that Hans is still alive. But the days stretch into weeks, and the mailbox stays empty. Until one morning when it isn't. Rosa finds Liesel in the kitchen, her face pale, her hands trembling. "A letter," she says. Liesel reaches for it. Rosa pulls it back. "No, it's not from Papa." Liesel stops. Rosa's lips press together. "It's from the government. The war has claimed another name. Not Hans. Not yet. It is Reinhold Zucker, the young soldier who had mocked Hans for his card playing. The one who had forced him to switch seats in the truck that crashed. Zucker was killed instantly. Hans only broke his leg. A cruel twist of fate, or a small mercy. Because now Hans is coming home. Liesel does not know whether to cry or to laugh, so she does neither. She only waits. The return. Hans arrives in the middle of winter, his legs stiff, his eyes sunken. Rosa weeps when she sees him, pressing her face into his chest, murmuring his name over and over again like a prayer. He smiles at Liesel, but there is something distant in his eyes, something heavy. He is home, but he is not the same. No one is. The night of words. Liesel begins to read again, not to steal, not to distract herself, but because she has to. Because words are the only thing left that makes sense. She steals into the mayor's library at night, not through the window, but through the front door. Frau Hermann has left it open for her. She does not say anything when Liesel arrives. She only nods. So Liesel sits in the library, alone in the flickering candlelight, and she writes. For the first time, she does not borrow words. She makes her own. She writes about the streets of Malching, about a girl who stole books, about a boy with hair the color of lemons, about a mother who cursed the world but loved her daughter with quiet, unspoken fierceness, about a father who played the accordion and gave bread to the dying, about a Jew who painted dreams in the dark. She writes late into the night, her fingers cramping, her ink smudging, and she does not stop. Not even when the sirens sound, the final air raid. The bombs come without warning. There is no shelter this time, no whispered prayers, only fire, only destruction, only Himmel Street reduced to rubble. Liesel wakes to smoke and silence. She does not remember falling asleep in the basement. She does not remember the explosion. She only remembers the words. And now the world is gone. She stands up, unsteady, dust clinging to her skin, and then she sees them. Or what is left of them. Rosa, still clutching Hans' accordion in her arms as if holding on to him even in death. Hans with his silver eyes closed, his face peaceful, as if he is only sleeping. Frau Holzapfel, the Fiedlers, the Steiners. And Ruddy, who lies motionless, his lips slightly parted, his blue eyes wide and empty. Liesel stares at him. She falls to her knees. She shakes him, whispers his name, begs him to wake up. But he does not. He never will. And so, at last, she does what she has never done before. She presses her lips to his, tasting dust and death, and she says the words she should have said a long time ago. I love you, Ruddy, but it is too late. He cannot hear her. The war has stolen him too. And in that moment, something inside Liesel shatters. She picks up Hans' accordion, pressing it against her chest, holding on to the only piece of him that is left. And then she begins to scream, because there is nothing else left to do. The world is silent. The sky is black with smoke. The air is thick with dust and the scent of fire. Liesel Meminger stands alone in the ruins of Himmel Street, her hands clutching Hans' accordion, her fingers gripping the cold metal as if it is the only thing tethering her to life. Maybe it is. She does not cry anymore. She has run out of tears. Instead, she walks. She steps carefully over the broken bricks, past the wreckage of homes that are no longer homes, past Rosa, who will never scold her again, past Frau Holzapfel, whose son will never return, past the empty shell of what used to be the Steiner house. She stops beside Ruddy's body. She kneels beside him, pressing her palm to his cheek, tracing the outline of the boy she loved too late. Her best friend, her partner in crime, her lemon-haired boy who never got his kiss until it no longer mattered. She whispers his name one last time. Then she stands up and she leaves him behind, the ashes and the words. In the days that follow, Liesel barely speaks. She watches as the soldiers clear the wreckage, as the dead are taken away, as the people of Malching move on, because what else can they do? But Liesel does not move on. She stays. She sits in the rubble of her old home, flipping through the pages of the word shaker, running her fingers over the stories that once saved Max. Now they are all she has left. And then she finds something else. Something half buried in the debris, a small, tattered notebook. Her own, the book she had been writing in the mayor's library. The story of her life. The story of a girl who stole books. She wipes away the dust. She reads the words she wrote, and for the first time in a long time, she does not feel empty. She feels full of grief, of love, of stories. And so she picks up her pencil and she begins to write again. The return. She does not see him at first, not until he is standing right in front of her. Liesel freezes, her breath catching in her throat. Max. He is thinner than before. His hair is shorn close to his scalp. His face is pale, his eyes darker, deeper. But it is him. Max, alive. For a moment, neither of them move. Then Liesel drops the book. She runs. She crashes into him, wrapping her arms around his waist, pressing her face into his chest. Max does not speak. He only holds her. And in that moment, she knows the war has taken everything. But not him. Not yet. The end of the story. Liesel grows up. She does not stay in Malching. There is nothing left there for her. She is taken in by the mayor's wife for a while, but eventually she leaves Germany altogether. She moves to a place with warmth, with open streets, with a future waiting for her. She does not know what becomes of Max. She does not see him again, but she carries him with her. She carries them all. Ruddy, with his mischievous grin and his dreams of running like Jesse Owens. Rosa, with her sharp tongue and her rough, stubborn love. Hans, with his silver eyes and his accordion music that still hums in her bones. She carries Himmel Street in the pages of her book. And one day, many years later, she dies, old, at peace, with a life full of stories behind her. The final words of death. When death comes for Liesel, he finds her book. He reads her words, and he is haunted. Because in all his years, across all the wars, among all the suffering and loss, he has never known a human like Liesel Meminger. A girl who loved words so much, she used them to heal. A girl who stole books, but who in the end gave them back to the world. And so, as he carries her soul away, he does something he has never done before. He speaks directly to her. I am haunted by humans, and then she is gone. The book Thief is a story about words, about their power to save and to destroy, about how they can be used for cruelty, but also for love. It is a story about war, but more than that, it is a story about people, the ones who fight, the ones who hide, the ones who steal, and the ones who give. It is about life, even in the shadow of death, and about how, even when the world is burning, there are still stories worth telling. There are still words worth writing. There are still people worth remembering.